Have you ever felt stuck at that intermediate level of guitar where you just can't seem to make that next leap up? And why is it that the intermediate level of guitar seems to last forever? First off, it is very hard to define what is exactly the intermediate level of guitar. And if you ask the internet or YouTube, you will get a lot of different answers. But I would say that intermediate level guitar is the longest phase because it should be. I'm going to show you some steps that you can take to make that next leap up, but hear me out on this first. I would argue strongly that you should focus on intermediate level guitar lessons before taking on anything else for a very, very long time. And here's why. In the real world of music, where people are getting paid to play music, it's the basics and the intermediate level skills that we are using 99% of the time. Think about it. How is it that so many rock bands could make tons of money, become super famous without ever learning how to read notation or being able to play an augmented chord? And the other reason is that far too many guitar students start taking on advanced level concepts before they've really mastered the intermediate level concepts that we're using 99% of the time. And that means at two levels, both mentally and physically. We need to understand all the concepts completely, automatically, and we need to be able to play them fluently anywhere on the fretboard. Here's an analogy. Let's say that you decided instead of learning guitar, you were going to learn a second language. And you might find that the real basics of a language are pretty quick to learn. Estoy estudiando español. You might find that when you're just learning the basic phrases like hola, ¿cómo estás? You can pick them up pretty quick. But once it comes to learning the grammar, the tenses, the intermediate phase of learning a language, you'll find it is going to take a long time. Es muy difícil. You can memorize the rules, but putting them into practice and being able to have a fluent conversation with someone, a conversation that's actually interesting, is really hard. And music is just another kind of conversation. It's a different language, but we have to be equally fluent in terms of being able to play it on our instrument and understanding it all pretty automatically. And the problem with guitar is that the physical aspect of it, being able to play in time, but not just in time, sounding good, it's quite difficult. It takes a lot of practice. And that kind of sucks because we all want to be at that advanced phase, pro level, able to pull out the Locrian scale whenever we feel it. But that's just not the reality. What's the point of that if we haven't perfected the skills that we're actually using, 99% of the time? It's better to stay in that intermediate phase for a long time till you really master that. And then taking on the advanced stuff is actually not that hard at all. So the good news is that if you've been in the intermediate stage for years, or maybe even many years, it's actually perfectly normal, and maybe it's not such a bad thing. So what are those intermediate level skills that I think we should all learn before we start taking on advanced harmony and modes? And just before we do, if you like these videos, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe because it helps others find these videos, and then we can make lots more. And so here are those intermediate skills and concepts that I think we should all master. And I'm going to try to group some of these together because otherwise this video is going to be very long. Be able to play pentatonic scales everywhere on the fretboard, minor pentatonic and major pentatonic, and be able to play runs moving from, say, the bottom end of the fretboard to the top end of the fretboard fluently. We've looked at this quite a bit on this YouTube channel already here. Well, we should be able to play any key, anytime. If I said to you, play G sharp major pentatonic, you should be able to do it instantly, within a couple of seconds. You know where G sharp is, and you look down and you go, oh, there's the scale shape. Next, we should learn to see the fretboard in intervals. We should be able to identify thirds and fourths and fifths and minor sevenths anywhere. If we did a search for unlock the fretboard on YouTube, we would probably find tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of videos. And some of those are good, but a lot of them, oh man. The thing is, yes, it would be great to know instantly that that's an A, but that's not really the best information that we need. What we really want to know is wherever we are, we know exactly where a major third is from there, or a fifth, or a minor seven. That is the information that we're actually using all the time to find the sounds that we want. And it's not that hard. It's just a bit of memorization. And that way, we can find these sounds in whatever key. It just doesn't matter because we're thinking in terms of interval shapes. Then truly the fretboard is unlocked. Similarly, we should be able to play double stops everywhere on the fretboard. Major, minor, sixes, thirds. All these licks are so common. They're in thousands and thousands of great songs. So for one thing, when we come across them, if we understand the concept and we know how it works on the fretboard, those songs are suddenly very easy to play. You can kind of hear it and you already know, oh, that's what that is. But also, it means that we can throw them in as rhythm guitar players, or we could put it in the middle of a solo, or write a great intro. These double stops are just so important, but also they just sound really cool. Next, we need to understand chord extensions. Now, since we're not learning jazz here on this channel, there aren't really a lot of chord extensions that we're going to use, but we definitely need to understand dominant chords for one, and we need to know the dominant chord is naturally the 5 chord, right? Or it's basically every chord in a 12-bar blues. We want to understand why there's a dominant chord on the 5 and how we can use that interval to make cool sounds. And we should really understand sus4 chords because they're everywhere as well. Plus, we can use the sound of sus4 in our solos to create beautiful arpeggios. And speaking of arpeggios, we should be able to play the basic ones everywhere on the fretboard, including major arpeggios, minor arpeggios, dominant arpeggios, sus4 arpeggios, those ones especially. Anywhere you are, you should be able to look down and see, oh, there's a sus4 arpeggio right there. It's a great sound, but also, again, then when we come across it in songs, we can play those songs so easily because we'll see it, we'll even hear it, and we'll just go, oh, yeah, I know what that is. That's the sus4 arpeggio there. And the same goes for triads. I mean, they're almost the same thing, right? They're a lot of the same shapes. So we should be able to see an A triad here, an A triad here, an A triad here, and then be able to connect them to the pentatonic scales. Because when we look down, we want to see, oh, here's a scale that I might use right now, and here's a triad that I might use right now, because we can combine chords and scales, right? We can do that at any moment. We just got to know what the right one is and where it is, and be able to hear what chord we are in the song. And that's all those skills we talked about, right? Now, I might not have covered everything. I may have forgotten something, but one more that is very important and actually maybe the most difficult, the one that takes the longest time, and that is to be able to play music with feel, to sound good. Sure, we might be able to play the notes of a solo, but does it sound really good? Does it make people go, or even just you go, oh, that was good, I liked that? Difference, right? There's a difference between playing the notes correct and the rhythm correct and sounding really cool, and that comes to feel. There's a lot of elements to that. There's accents, dynamics, staccato, little tiny bends. We have so much opportunity to change the way this thing sounds with just the tiniest movement of our fingers. And that's a huge advantage, but it also means that it takes a lot of practice and it takes a lot of time. But you can do it. That's a pretty good list, but if you want a much more detailed list, you can look at what we call the lesson order index on our Patreon, and everyone can see that. And you can see all the lessons in a good order that I think the students can learn from. And it covers all of these things that we've just mentioned, plus more actually as well. And you know what? You can get 7 days for free right now, so you could also just try it out. You've kind of got nothing to lose, right? My name is Blue Morris. I teach guitar lessons right here in Vancouver and on Patreon. And we're going to do some more videos coming up real soon. I'll see you there.